Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Okay, so hey, there are times when we all could use a little extra help and support in our lives. Whether there's something you're struggling with or just seeking connection with other people who understand what it's like to be in your situation, Inovia Behavioral Health can help. Inovia is a subscription-based organization that provides unlimited access to a wide variety of educational, experiential, and therapeutic support groups that are led by live expert facilitators. Now, you can get 20% off your membership with the discount code Cookbook20 when you subscribe. Check it out today at inoviabh.com. Inovia, feel better. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and you know, I always say I'm excited about my guests. I am like so crazy excited about my guest today because we actually met when Heather and I were on vacation in Hawaii, and we'll tell the story when we get on, but it was just amazing. And when we first met Brynn, she was just so down to earth and so passionate about the Vita Mia, which we're going to talk about in a moment, that I was like, oh my God, you just need to be on my podcast. So I'm going to read Brynn's bio and then bring her on. So Brynn Rovito is the owner of the Vita Mia, a 94-year-old historic classic yacht located in Honolulu, Hawaii. Vita Mia is a rare historic yacht and is one of the few that operate commercially and is open to the public. Brynn's mission is to breathe life into these old boats, many of which are at risk of being destroyed or left to languish. She believes these old boats have a spirit, and I will tell you that the Vita Mia does. When you are on her, you feel her. It's just an amazing experience. And she uses her energy to harness the magic of these classics to bring awareness to the dying trade of wooden boat building. She has developed an expertise in yacht restoration in a short time and is involved in every aspect of her business. Brynn is a woman on the rise. She thinks creatively and is relentless in her efforts to preserve historic classic yachts. Brynn's business provides an unforgettable guest experience who enjoy coffee cruises, sunset cruises, and private charters. And we ended up having one without even planning one. So she hopes to bring more classic yachts to Hawaii as a way to bring awareness to Hawaii's rich maritime history. Prior to her career in entrepreneurship, she served as, okay, get this, Deputy General Counsel for the U.S. Senate Sergeant at Arms. Like, what? Anyway, Brynn graduated summa cum laude from University of Massachusetts at Amherst and earned her Juris Doctorate at Brooklyn Law School. She is active in the Honolulu business community, where she forms partnerships with other small business owners, working with local chefs and entertainers. The Vita Mia was most recently featured in the HBO Emmy Award-winning series The White Lotus, which aired in 2022. So without further ado, let's meet Brynn. Hi, you are like freaking amazing.
It's a lot.
I mean, you are. You know, it was so funny because, like, I will just never forget the minute when, we woke up, we're like, oh, we're going on this coffee cruise. It's going to be amazing. And then we get there and you get there and the crew gets there and you're like, yeah, nobody else is coming. And we were like, huh? Well, there were supposed to be 10 other people, but they're not showing up. And we're like, so is it canceled? And you're like, no, you're going. And we're like, we have her like to ourselves. And it was incredible. I mean, and the fact that, you did that, because that's a lot of freaking fuel, and fuel is expensive in Hawaii. I mean, so the fact that you did that and we still had the full hour and a half and had the full experience really says a lot about you. So yeah. So tell us about the Vita Mia and you.
Yeah, sure. Well, I want to comment on your experience first because, those are Vita Mia moments, I think. The boat is, she's alive. And when, if people that come to the cruise are lucky enough to catch me there, and it was a scenario like that, and there's no way I'm not going to show someone the boat. I mean, people that walk by, I always invite them in. I just love to see people's response to the boats, because it's so unexpected. These things just aren't around anymore. And I think that there's a certain group of people who sort of fantasize about being on one day, but for people to walk by, and we're not in a very accessible harbor, so we're kind of tucked back. There's not a lot of foot traffic, so people kind of walk by and they're like, what is this thing? And if I'm there, I love to bring them on board. And yeah, that group of 10 canceled, and you guys were there. There's no way I wasn't taking you guys out. Absolutely not. No way.
It was just nuts. And when you gave us the tour, you could just see how, passionate that, you are about her, and just showing how, how she was actually put together, and just the explanation, and, showing the pictures of, the book, that the whole experience was amazing. And I know we told you that you need to be part of that experience, but we'll talk about that offline. But yeah, it was amazing. And the crew was great and attentive, and the food was just like, oh my God.
Thanks. Yeah.
The whole thing was great. So how did you like get into this? Like, how did, and I know we talked about it, but tell the audience how you kind of, fell into this. And
Sure. So I was an attorney. I was a practicing attorney for about 10 years on Capitol Hill. I had a really great job. Prior to that, I was one of those people that came to Hawaii after college. I was 22 years old, and this is when eBay was first starting, and I had this little idea to sell these designer handbags online, and that took me to Hawaii. So I flew out here just for about 10 days to buy these really hard to find handbags that I could resell on eBay. And I did a little cost benefit, calculation, and factored in the fact I could go to Hawaii and basically pay for my trip, if I sold these bags. So I came out here and got the bags, sold them. I'll never forget the first day that I was dropped off on the bus. I had a really long trip getting over here from the East Coast, and they dropped me off on Lure Street, which is this main street here in Waikiki, at about 2:00 in the morning. The only thing that was open was Denny's, and I just stepped off the bus, and I was like, I could get moons over my hammy in Hawaii. This is great. I was immediately like, the warm air and just something really, I just was like, wow, I can't believe this place exists, and that it's part of the United States. And, I was just blown away by it. And so 3 days later, I ended up meeting a bunch of people who I'm still friends with that basically found a way to live here at that age, which was pretty impressive. And I just, by the third day, I was like, I'm not going back home. I don't want to. I'm going to figure out how to make this work. Other people figured out a way to make this work. I felt something really special here. I'm from the Midwest, like you are, and
where are you from?
I'm from the South Side of Chicago. My family's from Roseland. It's a small Italian neighborhood.
Yeah,
it's not the same anymore, but it was, it was a really well preserved, fantastic community, and that's where my mom and my grandma grew up in. So I grew up there when I was young, and then we moved out to Massachusetts when I was 12. So I did my high school and college in Massachusetts, and the culture is very different there. People are very, it's got a
East Coast, man. I mean, you did the opposite. You went from the Midwest to the East Coast, and I went from the East Coast to the Midwest. Like, what the hell was I thinking? But anyway, go ahead.
No, I'm a Westerner at heart. It's really easy to get to know me. I'll talk to anyone. We're just like that. And so when growing up in Massachusetts, people are kind of cold and sarcastic, and it's a thing. It's a thing, and it's funny, but it's not. It's perceived as pretty rude.
It's different, right? You're not. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, they call it ball busting, right? So that's like the way I grew up. But when I came to Hawaii, people were so nice. I mean, everyone was welcome at the table. I got invited to, let's go drive around the island. You're new here. I want to show you this. And I mean, it was like, I just felt at home. I really felt at home. And I felt that there were people here that were real friends, and they were so kind to me and welcomed me into this place that's really different from where I was. But I felt the connection. It's the same way that, my family treated other people and that. And so I really connected to Hawaii right away. And of course, it's amazing. I mean, it's so beautiful, and all the things that Hawaii has to offer, but it was really the people. And I felt some kind of thing, when I landed. And but I did always want to go to law school. So I ended up living here for a couple of years. And then, the advice when you're applying for law school is go to the best school you get into. And the advice I got was you cannot go to law school in Hawaii because no one will take you seriously if you want to pursue a legal career.
Wow.
And I thought that made sense. I always wanted to live in New York and all that, but I was kind of like thinking, okay, I have to put my time in it and do the best I can. So I worked really hard and ended up getting accepted into Brooklyn Law School, which was a fantastic experience. So I left Hawaii to move back to the East Coast to go to law school.
In the winter, you must have been like, what in the hell was I thinking?
I can remember sitting at a Jack Johnson concert, who is from Hawaii, in Central Park, sobbing underneath it. Because I was like, what did I do? What did I do?
What was I thinking? Oh my God, that's so funny.
I spent the next 8 years trying to figure out how to get back here. It was just I always knew I was going to come back. There was no doubt in my mind, but I didn't really know how. And I ended up getting I had a fantastic law school experience. My friends in law school were great. We lived in Brooklyn Heights. It was like going to college all over again. And that was great. So it was a fun couple of years. It was definitely hard. And I ended up getting a job working for the United States Senate. And that was fantastic. It was a really, really fantastic opportunity. So I stayed there. But after working there for a while, it was never because of the politics or any of the stuff that people normally say. We were in a nonpartisan office. We're actually in charge of tours, which is kind of cool. And I did like the slip and falls of the Senate. Tort claims, like someone drops their camera or, there's a car accident. Like that. And there's no real pressure to get things done. It was a pretty easy job. But an important job. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for the way our government's set up and for how beautiful the Capitol building is. We had keys to the kingdom. We could walk through. There's these hideaway offices underneath the Capitol, and they're awesome. There's a tunnel system down there, and you're rubbing elbows with people, off TV that are leading our country, and off the screens, things are very different. There's a camaraderie, there's a fellowship, and it's really nice to see that. And so right. I didn't have that experience
because you don't see that on, unfortunately. And I don't want to get political, but if we saw more of that, I think we would look a lot different than we do right now.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is that with so much media, they put TV screens on the Senate floors probably like 25 years ago or 30 years ago to make it easier for the senators and congressmen to go back to their home states and do their work and still stay connected to the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And when that happened, people used to come into the Senate floor and they're like, why isn't anyone here? Because they're all working. They were working remotely before Zoom started. Right. And that changed things. I think the media coverage changed things. You used to be able to go out to dinner and work out problems, right? And have that thing and not be under public scrutiny when you were having a conversation with a member from the other party. And I think that changed things up in DC probably. And now it's just, gone to crazy. The extreme. Yeah. But, it never, my experience working with the Capitol, especially with the people that I work with, was fantastic. I got, treated very well. I got taught a lot of things and I had access actually to everything. So we were able, our office was also in charge. It's a historical office. And the Sergeant at Arms was the doorkeeper of the Senate. Yeah. And the Sergeant at Arms job, and if your guests aren't familiar, it's the guy that's like, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States. Right. That's him. And so and they used to be called doorkeepers, and they were actually, their job was to stand in front of the doors of the Senate floor and make sure the senators did not leave so they could finish the work of the country. So over time, the office got assigned all these responsibilities. They ended up being in charge of law enforcement and a host of other things.
Wow.
9/11. So the lawyers were part of the executive office, and one of the sort of ancillary duties was to just show VIPs around when they came in. So if you had, a relative of a member that came with their family or friends, then we would give them a tour and we'd show them around. And so we could take them up to the Capitol Dome tours and we could take them underneath. And so I found making myself more and more available to give these tours because I wasn't bored with the work, but it was a lot of the same thing. And it was really fun I'm enamored with the building. I just think it's beautiful. The artwork there. The Sergeant at Arms has a furniture making shop. They make all the custom woodworking furniture for all the senators. It's
wow.
Amazing. barber down there. It's like a whole community of people that live underneath this, that work underneath the building. And these office people work there for 40, 50 years. Elevator operators. I mean, it's just so cool. And I love showing people that came to the Capitol who are in this like policy mindset about this and that and blah, blah, blah. Just press pause. Let's look and see how this is set up. And here's some really cool things. So I kind of developed my own tour and it took about 3 hours. Sorry to my former supervisors, but that's what I really developed a love for that. So, around that time, I didn't have any idea about these boats or anything like that at the time. I just really wanted to go back to Hawaii, and I don't know, I wanted to work for myself. I didn't like having to be somewhere at a certain time because I just didn't think like that. It wasn't not following other people's rules or anything like that. I wanted to do things. I wanted to create stuff. I wanted to solve problems and you're just operating under like, a set, you're not in a box, but you have a job to do. You have to do your job. You can't just like go off the rails and do whatever you want. And right. I wanted to. And so, and I started this little side business. This is kind of before Airbnb became very standard for booking rentals. I started a business in DC where I was doing short-term rentals for interns and for business travelers that were coming into town. And so that started kind of flourishing around the same time that I was working full-time as a lawyer. And, I just took a look at it and said, this is getting so busy. The time I'm spending at work is actually hurting me. I'm losing money in this business. Wow. So I kind of had this way. And then when I was told about, the way that people could book online now, and it was so easy to free marketing, basically, then I said, this is my way to get back to Hawaii. Like, this is what I can do, so I came out for a little exploratory tour. Of course, after a breakup, I had to be dramatic about it. Came out, right. I had something to prove, and so I flew out for a 10-day vacation just to kind of see what was going on. I hadn't been here for a while. Everyone I knew left. But I ran into two of my old friends who I knew from a long time ago who said, hey, you got to come check out this old boat that we bought.
Wow.
And so I went down to the harbor, the same one that you came in. And this was a different boat, but it was the same deal as Vita Mia. It was an old boat, 57 feet long, from a different period, from the 60s. And I stepped on this boat. And remember, I'm trying to figure out a way to come back to Hawaii, right? And so I sit on this boat and I enter this, there's shag carpeting, there's brass clocks that say captain quarters, and the trade winds are blowing in, and it's this oceanfront thing. And my friends don't want the boat anymore. And I was like, people, when I stepped on the boat, that was the thing that hits. And I said, people need to experience this. People need to experience what I feel right now. I was just immediately thought, this has to be a thing for people to do. It has to be. This is so cool. There's nothing like this.
Wow.
So so I flew back home and I quit my job. And I sent that email, that one that's like, it's with mixed feelings that I, right. And it was an email that, I think between Hawaii and Old Wood boats, people were like, yeah, good luck with that. They just thought I was sane probably before that. And they were just, I don't think people really took it seriously, Yeah. And, so the my colleagues were kind of like, okay, good luck. One guy who's like a good boater would walk in and say, good luck with that. I hope you're doing well. And, it's so exciting. And other people are just kind of like, oh, she's, probably not too serious about, pursuing a career or whatever. But
and then surprise. Hang on, we have to pause for 1 second. Pause it for a sec. Okay. Sorry.
How old are your kids?
Well, not kids, like puppy kids.
Puppy kids. Oh yeah.
Yes,
okay.
There are kids. There are fur kids. So Skylar is a year and 8 months, and Piper is 8 months.
Oh, great.
And she got into, I don't know what, but we're sitting in the living room before, and she's like scratching at the door, and I'm like, you were just out. And she's scratching at the door, and I let her out, and I was like, oh my God, thank God I just let you out, because
gotcha.
It would not have been good. So she'll do her thing, and we'll let her back in. But so wow. That's it. And I know what you mean about the wood boats. I mean, I will say, landing in Hawaii, that is like I felt so connected to the island. Like I never experienced anything like that in my life. It was like we got there and it was like, well, okay, well, I will say, so we got there Thanksgiving, and we were at the Alamo. I think we rented the car from Alamo. I think like nobody rented a car from anywhere else because there were like 100 people online to get this car, and there were only 2 people in the office.
Oh,
And this is on Thanksgiving, so the line is like insane. We were on the plane for like 12 hours, but at the end of the day, and we're waiting to get there, and it was just like we just want to get to the hotel, and then we called because it was Hilton Village, Waikiki Beach, whatever, and we called to make sure that our room was still, and then they're like, well, we can't find your reservation, and I'm like,
oh no.
what do you mean you can't find a it's like, oh my god. So then they found it. And we got there and, we got to the room and it was like very hectic the first day. But when we woke up the next day and we went down for breakfast, it was just like, oh my God.
Thing. Yeah.
It was just like this feeling. So we, walked on the beach and of course it's Black Friday. I didn't bring the right shoes. So we went shopping, it was like, whatever. So we went to the mall right there. But there's something reverent about, her land and just all of the things, about her that it was. So I can see how you were just like, oh my, because I'm like, can we move here? Like, do we have to go back? But unfortunately, we did. So I'm not going to ask what made you want to stay in Hawaii because like, who wouldn't? But what made you want to become an entrepreneur? I know that, you were doing your thing and you wanted to be able to, but like, what was your call? What made you really just decide this is it?
I never thought about it. I never like analyzed whether, I don't want to say I never analyzed whether it would work. I was constantly like doing calculations in my head about like this idea or that idea, but I just want to make money. I like figuring things out and finding a way to do that. I just wanted to figure something out, and when I found something that I thought was a good idea, I work backwards and try to figure out how to make money from this thing, and I just get excited by that. I am not one of those people that I'm a dreamer. Okay. I'm like a dreamer. I'm one of those people that has like, I delve into these like fantasy ideas about things, but I was fortunate enough to come into Hawaii where like I saw that was a possibility. Like there's planes coming here every day. There's planes leaving every day. Worst case scenario, you move back home. I never really thought it would be bad if you fail. Like, why not try it? So
right.
The entrepreneurial spirit, also like the way I grew up was like, I didn't have a college fund like ready for me. It wasn't like that. I was the first person to go to college. I was raised by a single mom who was just always working, always like thinking of some idea. And that's how her brain works. So when I grew up, I saw that, and I also saw that as like a necessity. Like you have to figure out a way to make money so you can do well because we don't have a lot of money. So we got to figure something out.
Right.
I never felt that I didn't have it. I didn't even realize it. But looking back, when you live on, at the time it was probably different, but like my mom's a single mom. Okay. And she's only got an earning capacity of so much money. She has to figure something out. So we just start figuring stuff out. So my brain was just always thinking like that, And then also I think that when I found out something was available, I said, well, there has to be a way to get there. And that's the way I looked at law school. I liked learning, I always did. And even in college, I thought to myself, if there's a way to get more education, why wouldn't I do that? It's available.
Right.
So whether I have to take out a loan, I'll do whatever it takes, but that's available for me and other people do it. So I'm doing it. That's how I always thought about it. So it's pretty determined in that way, to get to where I want. Like I would just set my sight on something and say, I got to figure this out. There has to be I always just think there's a way. There's always a way. There is
always a way. I agree with that. I always felt that as well. And, I didn't know that I would end up here doing this, but I always knew that, I was meant for something, and it wasn't working for anybody else. It wasn't, like every job I had was like, oh, whatever. And so I get that. So you said that you stepped on the first boat that wasn't the Vita Mia. What did you do with that?
So, well, it was sinking. So I had to.
So you jumped off real fast.
Oh no, I literally knew nothing. Okay. So like one of my friends was a captain and there's pumps running on the boat and he would lift up the floorboards. And you got to remember, like these boats are super intimidating when you go on them. If you lift up a panel and you see what lies beneath, you're like, oh my God, like what is this? There's wires and there's like, I don't even know, oil and like things can light up and it's scary, And so I just kind of deferred to my friends who said, well, there's always pumps running and there's just a minor fix and this and that, And that did not turn out to be the case, but they just didn't really know either. Wooden boats are a specialty. And so boats will take on a little bit of water. You always keep pumps in the boats, like if you're underway, there's different areas that like water can come in or something like that. But in a wood boat, if water comes in over a really long period of time, the structure of the boat starts to deteriorate for many reasons, and you got to get that thing out of the water because so basically the boat was really close to the tipping point where you would lose it. There was no way to repair it. And, but I just, you've been down to that harbor. So this is a state-run harbor and there's these commercial slips available and there's other people running businesses. So I just figured there has to be a way to get people on this boat, but I had to deal with the immediate problem. So did I think it through? No, I didn't think it through at all. I knew that this would work. I never doubted myself because it wasn't my idea. It didn't come from here. It came from here. So I never had any reason to doubt it, and I wasn't like walking around justifying it either. I was just kind of like, my boat's going to sink. How do I stop it from sinking? Who's the person that I called to stop this boat from sinking? And so I just started, I did it the hard way. I did it by figuring every problem out as it came to me. And so it was never too like overwhelming. I mean, I was just magical and I was just in love with this idea.
And there's something about the wooden boat.
Oh, they're magical.
I mean, a friend of mine had a 40-foot Chris Craft in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I remember even stepping in that and, the brass portholes and the whole, and it was just like, this is really freaking cool. Yeah. But
so
look ahead because then we'll talk about the Vita.
That's okay. No, it's fine. So this boat was a Chris Craft. It was a Chris Craft Constellation.
Oh, okay. So
57, lots of wood. And so like this, so the thing that would happen, and it started happening right away, was that I would be on the boat and I would just be sitting on the boat, kind of, I don't know, trying to do a little project or something. And someone would walk by and they would say, my grandpa used to have that boat. Like, is that a Chris Craft? And like the nostalgia that these boats would stir up from other people. I started to get more information and stories, and people tell stories about boats, and it's just a thing, boats really connect people. And so people who have been fortunate enough to have a boat in their family, whether it's just a little fishing boat or whatever it is. I mean, it's a real special memory for people. Their grandparents took them out fishing or, it's something like that. Someone in their family that had the boat. It was a cool thing to do, And even here in Hawaii, people don't go on boats that much. They surf. So when I started to hear stories and people would walk by and see how much they connected to the boats, it just fueled that thing, so.
Yeah. And so, okay, so you took that boat and then did you refurbish it or
yeah. So okay. So I had this like bright idea to do. So I was told that you can't move the boat because the propellers would chop up the wood so bad that it would take on more water. So I said, okay, I can't move the boat, but people can stay on the boat. So I can just do an Airbnb or something.
Oh,
so
wow.
I did that as a temporary thing. And and so I did it. And so I listed it on Airbnb and I got, people just loved it. I mean,
oh my God, that's amazing.
I could stay on a boat in Hawaii. People still say that. Like, it's the dream, like I could stay on a boat in Hawaii in this old boat and all that stuff. And so I started doing that. And then I got a call one day. Things were smooth, for a little while. And then I got a call from our guests who had flown in from France. And this is a very long trip. They were so excited about staying on this boat. They stayed on the boat a couple nights. I got a call at 11 o'clock at night. Your boat is sinking. And I was like, what?
Oh, no.
Go down to the harbor. They got all their luggage on the dock, and the whole entire boat, tons, is like leaning over. And
Oh, my God.
oh my, this is way worse than I thought. Like, I thought we were managing like this condition. No. And looking back and thinking like what kind of risk that was it's tremendous. It's tremendous. And so these poor people, I mean, I still think about these poor people's vacations, but I sat and people were like, you got to get that. So I had to call, get the boat pumped out. And then it was like, okay, next step, get into a boatyard. Then I go to the boatyard. We're not picking that boat up. It's Swiss cheese. That's what the guy told me.
Oh, my goodness.
Who I convinced to take the boat out of the water. And so
what happened to the people that were staying on the boat?
Rebook them into like another place and pay for their vacation.
Yeah. Oof.
That was a 0-star.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
So that boat was toast at that point.
No, it wasn't. So people told me, I mean, people were offering me, all these people come around. You could pay me $15,000 and I'll make it disappear. Okay. Like everyone is like obsessed with this person's boat's going to sink. What's this girl going to do? There's all these people trying to get involved and help you out, or who knows, I mean, there's like, you're running the gamut with the type of people that are, watching this thing happen,
wow.
Right? Like there's this old boat, and then some people are, I'll buy the boat, or the boat's fine, and some people are like, the boat's not fine. And I just had no idea who to even believe. And so I got the boat out of the water. That was the first thing. I got the boat out of the water, took it to the dock. And, when they took it out of the water, it sat there for like an entire month, because I thought you could just hire a carpenter to fix a boat. You cannot just hire a carpenter to fix a boat. And so, there was 3 people here in Hawaii who were shipwrights, who actually knew how to restore wood boats, the hull.
Right.
It's a specialty that takes years to develop, an apprenticeship and all that kind of stuff. And one of the guys had passed away. The other guy was in jail. And the other guy was maybe on Sandy's Beach somewhere, meaning like I have to go drive around and like find this person. So
oh my God.
No one here to fix it. And now it's getting critical. You can't leave the boat out of the water for too long, because it starts to hog. And then like, it's like it's like a body. Like if your spine gets injured, like the whole thing is off, and it's not going to have the right water displacement and all kinds of things. It's not going to cruise the same, or it's just going to crumble to bits in the yard, which they're like, this boat better not crumble to bits, Brynn. Do something about it.
Right.
This was really stressful. It was critical. And I mean, I was calling boat building schools, like, I'll fly you guys out, like, please, and I'm running out of money, and it's like this thing. And, I'll never forget, I was sitting in the harbor office there I was sitting in the office in the boatyard. And this guy walks in and he says, is this your boat out there? And I said, yeah, do you know how to fix it? And he goes, we can make it fly if you want to. And I'm like, that's intriguing. I like this guy. And it turns out that he was one of the former owners of the Vita Mia, and his team had restored that boat before. So, yeah.
So this was meant to be, basically.
Looking back, it definitely feels like.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We're pausing one more time to let her in, and then we're done with that. Getting up.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So in hearing that, I mean, to me, that's like, he was a former owner of the Vita Mia. Come on, that's like,
yeah, and he
that's
was
the universe saying, Brynn.
Yeah,
Brynn.
it's crazy, and I didn't even know it at the time actually that he was one of the former owners. He had actually had a long history of the boat. He's had the most expertise here with the most historical knowledge of that boat, and he's got a team of amazing marine mechanics and woodworkers and all kinds of stuff. And basically they're so good that they would just get flown all over the world to go like repair boats after a hurricane or something.
Wow.
And the team happened to be in Hawaii, and he happened to be there, and I happened to be there. And then, he basically, I mean, this guy, like, his name is Steve. He sat me down with like a legal pad and just started. Like, he was like, okay, we got to get Cavusel bubbles and epoxy. And I was like, what? Like, what is a Cavusel? Like, he must have thought I knew what I was doing and just talked to me as if I was a colleague. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, and that's something that is a real gift as you're like an entrepreneur. Someone that just starts, you meet, they don't like baby you through it, like dive in. This is how you do it, you know? And so there was a huge learning curve. Like there's so much to learn. I'm learning every single day. I'm like by no means like an expert, but I know way a lot more than I did then. And so we started the process and like, okay, now we got to get the planks. Now we got to do this. And this is how we're going to handle this. And this is going to cost you more. You might want to go this way. And I just shouted them. I was in the yard like every day. I loved it. It was so amazing, cool to see actually the community there is really what I loved, because people move to Hawaii and you're kind of unmoored. Like, I mean, the novelty, it's not that it wears off, but like, you got to get real. Like where's my family? Who are my friends? What am I doing every day? Like going to the beach and meditating is not a life. Like you have to live a life and form a community of friendships and colleagues and all that stuff. Right. And I didn't have that for a long time here. I was just, I don't know what I was doing really, and so getting into this project and something so massive was really helped me like lock in a community here. And I always look at I love going to the yard. It just, these people are the salt of the earth, and to see like these tradesmen and like machine shops and all that kind of stuff. It's so cool. And no one knows anything about that. No one knows anything about that. No one's going to the Kehi Marine Center when they're on vacation here, but it's magical. And Hawaii has a rich maritime history. And so I love it. And these people, they're like salty. They call them salty. These captains, I love that boat back in the 70s in Maui and blah, 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 I just live for that stuff. I live for it. And so that started to happen. And I felt like I had a place here. Aww. Like a real place here. Because you can't, one of your questions was, what do you miss about the corporate world? Where you have a group of people that you work with day in and day out, that you get to know their families, and you go have coffee with them, and you leave for lunch with them, and you have that. Right. You have upward mobility, you have new people coming in under you, and you have friendships at work. Whether you like them or not, you have it. It's a huge part of our lives. We spend 8 hours a day at work or whatever. Right. And that's gone. That's gone. And there's something jarring about it, because you're used to having that made for you, and now you got to do everything on your own. Never mind run your own business and figure out your money. Like, who are your people? Right. So.
And that's a big part of it. I mean, that's the people are, like Kofi right now is my, right-hand man. I would be like lost without him. But to have somebody that, is going to be there for you, that, they know you're going to be there for them.
Absolutely.
In a heartbeat. Right. And to have that is so important, and it's not easy to find.
No, I know. And there's so many growing pains with starting a business. Like,
oh yeah,
so many growing pains. And for people to stick with you, because they don't necessarily, because part of them believes in your idea, and also that they see a way for them to fit into it. And that's a good thing. And it doesn't come all the time. So it's like, those people are really important to me, So people say, oh, people stick by you through thick and thin. No. They see a piece, they see a value they can bring to your business, and they want to help you. So they deal with your crap. They deal with your mistakes, and they suffer your losses too.
Yeah. And
it's financed, like, that's not like that. You don't think, unless you have capital and investors, like, your life, it's not like that. You run out of money, someone doesn't get paid. Like, your who's like your Kofi doesn't get paid, right? Like, it's not like that. It's hard. It's really hard.
And it's scary. I mean, it's
awful.
So what advice do you have? This is the perfect lead into the next question, right? What advice do you have for, somebody thinking of becoming an entrepreneur? And, your story is, it's not a typical, I'm going to leave and go to Hawaii and start a business. I mean, shit, I wish I could. I wish I could, but
yeah. I mean, people always say, follow your dreams. And like, that's a piece of it, but that is not the reality of it. The reality of it is that it requires a tremendous amount of work. And it's not just work, it's strategizing. It's making decisions. I remember thinking to myself, I never realized how many decisions I had to make. Like, this is hard. And so you have to make decisions about where you're spending your money, like what you're going to do next, how you're going to promote yourself, where you're going to spend your time, where you should go to, all kinds of stuff. There's so many things that you have to make decisions about. And it's a lot. So that the mental capacity that you need to have, you have to be all in. Like, and the thing is that businesses fail because people don't have enough perseverance, or they're undercapitalized, and you have to have perseverance. Because, I mean, you have to be ready for losing all your money. You have to be ready for not being able to pay your bills. You have to be ready for all that stuff. Like,
right.
And so I never prepared for the worst because I was like in fantasy land when I started this, but I did think through a lot of things. I just didn't have enough experience to make good decisions all the time. That's all.
Right.
So I made some mistakes. And so my advice is be prepared to work really, really hard, and don't think everything's going to be okay. It's not. It's not going to be okay, but it's your way of managing the problems. It's your perception of those problems. Like, I mean, when we've had some really tough financial, circumstances, like the boat got into an accident, and it was a lot. Like, there was a lot of stuff that happened that was really difficult. And COVID, of course, like there's just, all the leftovers, implications from tourism being shut down here for 2 years. And to have to walk through those really difficult things where you can't make payroll or you lose your insurance or that kind of stuff happens. It's really hard. And when you have to make a decision of, do I pay payroll or do I pay my insurance? That was like, those are the decisions like I had to make every week. It was like hard. And when your capacity is, you're plan for the worst. I didn't plan for the worst, like when I was in this sort of dream state about the business, but you have to have a little bit of both, so I see a lot of business people who are, I believe in this dream. Like, do you know how much work it's going to be? It's going to be a lot. It's going to be like, it's going to be testing like every single thing that you have. Like, it's a lot. And the thing is though, is that you're starting your own business so you can grow as an entrepreneur. So when you run out of money, it's a growth opportunity. So you can't plan for everything, but like all the stuff that comes into play is, this is an opportunity for growth. Like, and how am I going to walk through this? Because I am going to walk through this because I don't have a choice. How am I going to get there? And I think that, it's easier said when it's in your past, but like those kinds of things are what really give you the experience that you need so that you can say, I've done this for 10 years, and someone calls you and asks you to be a consultant. But not if you're just like making money all the time and not dealing with any problems. Like, how are you going to advise someone else? How are you going to lead a team? So I think that it's that business owners should be prepared for it to be really hard.
Yeah, that's great advice. And it's true, because when you run out of money, because when you have a business, you have to keep your pipeline full so that, there's, opportunities that are always there that, hopefully, you can pull from, but it's not always like that. And it's not always easy. And, when I think one of the things is you really need to figure out what your strengths are, and then where you're not as strong as you are in some other fields. That's when you find those people to, fill those. It's like the, what do they, I forgot. It's the form of art. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. We were just talking about this, where, when you drop like a vase and then you fill it with gold.
Yeah. It's like a called. I've heard that before.
Yeah, I forgot what it's called. I'm going to Google it next time the thing is on you, just because it's going to drive me nuts. But that's kind of what it is. You fall, and then you're like, okay, I can't do it all, so I need to fill this hole, and I need to fill, this hole. And I'll say to Kofi sometimes, it's like, okay, so let's hop on a call and, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll be like, okay, so I need you. And he's like, that's what you do. And I'm like, I just need you to kind of, and he's like, nope, that's not my, and he knows, his thing. And I know his thing, but I'll try to push him a little bit once in a while. But I know, like, the strategy piece and trying to figure stuff out, and,
it's exhausting. It's really exhausting.
It can be, I remember I think it was like August, I had no pipeline.
Oh yeah.
Like zero. And I was like, A, how the hell did that happen? B, what am I going to do about it? Because I got to do something about it, right? And I went out and I made connections, and next thing, my pipeline was, good. But when you wake up at 3:00 in the morning and you're like, what am I going to do? And then you're up because now it was 3:00 in the morning. Now you're not going back to sleep. So, it's those crap moments.
Right. And there's some business owners who are bootstrapping, right? They're just using the profits that they make to like make the next move. And so that's like one way that that's the only thing I know. So it's like, that's my advice is to people that are coming in with not any capital or investing, and they're just like piecing it together as they go along. And then there's some people who are funded, but I'm sure that they have like much better advisors. So I'm not speaking to those people. I'm talking about people who are really starting with like very little.
That's what I'm talking, like, someone who's like at their job and they're like, man, this sucks. I want to start my own business. So it was great. It's great advice.
Yeah. And something I had, I was kind of like working on my business as I was working as a lawyer. So I had some income coming in. So that was a safe place to start experimenting and dipping your toe in. Right. People always said, oh, you just left your job. Like, no, I didn't just leave my job. Like, I didn't do that. But I had to cash out my 401k when I ran out of money. I had to like take out a loan when I ran out of money. I couldn't. I didn't know that I didn't have income on my taxes anymore. What kind of looking? I didn't think about any of that stuff. What? It was just like, oh my God, that's the kind of thing.
Yeah, nothing's coming out of your paycheck. You got to put that money away for those taxes. You got, that's like, yeah,
right. Like I was not like that. Yeah, yeah. And like something that I got some really helpful assistance from a consultant in the last year, and once I created a budget and short and long-term goals, that really helped a lot. And it helped me personally, like relieve a lot of my fear and anxiety, because I have something to look at like every day. Because I was always keeping stuff in my head and having a to-do list that just never ends. And the budget really helped me a lot. Really helped me a lot. Yeah. So you got to be real about what you're earning, what you're spending money.
So you said that that the Vita Mia had an accident.
Yeah. It was just an accident. It was a small.
So was it like before COVID? Like, was it?
No. Yeah, it was. Oh God, we were in full swing. We were like just to be like cash flow positive, and then the conditions at the dock. The boat responds faster to the wind. The boat responds faster to the wind than it does to like the driving the actual boat. So it's really and it's a single screw boat, which means it has one propeller and one engine. So captains, like, they're used to getting on a boat and like there's a bow thruster and you press a button and it parks the boat for you. Not on a boat like Vita Mia. Like they have to literally be
praise the wind blowing and oh my God.
Yeah. So the boat's simple, but it requires a different factoring in the conditions and all that kind of stuff. It's just a little harder. You can't steer the boat. It's not like turning a car. Like you have to like factor in the swell and the wind and all that stuff to get the boat in the slip. And so what happened was, and I'm telling you, it was like it wasn't like this like crazy thing. It was just like dink and like the bow of the boat dink. And it was like, I walked out and now there was like part of the piece came off. And then I thought to myself, like, obviously, I was concerned, like, is anyone hurt and all that stuff. But then I made a phone call and the first question was, is the boat taking on water? And I was like, I never even thought of that. Like, it was just not my first, it was so shocking to me that like, no, you get into action right away. Is the boat taking on water? You got to go to the front, check all this stuff. Oh, and so that was, that's, unfortunately, you're in boating. So accidents happen.
Yeah.
Well, like I didn't plan on that. I'll tell you that. I did not.
Yeah. So then how long did that put you like out of commission?
Oh God. It was 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
Oh, crap. Okay.
Yeah. I ruined 2 brides' lives. I had to cancel their weddings. It was just like, yeah. So and they're traveling really far to come to Hawaii and they're dreaming about getting married on this classic yacht forever. And that's just like, that's the hardest part is like letting these people down. Because you can't replace the boat with something else.
Yeah. You can't do, wow. Wow.
Thing. It's not the magical classic yacht experience. And and then, we had to stop everything. And so fortunately, when something happens to Vita Mia, everyone knows that they have to stop what they're doing and like handle the boat. So the boatyard's like, I'm like, when I call, they're just like, what? Like they have to move all the boats around and like save Vita Mia right away. Everyone's very protective about the boat. The boat's had a long history here. So we're fortunate to have like great support. But yeah, so it took the boat off for 3 weeks. It brings the team closer together when something like that happens. So there's things that you have to just hold on to and say, okay, this is God, our captain's great. Like our crew was in the yard painting the boat. Everyone was really like, this is Hawaii and I'm on a boat. People are like that. But it's like the reality of when something like that happens and they see, when you have a small business, they see the owner like crying. They see the owner like begging. They see the owner, like, you know, they see that. And it was like, I mean, the crew was just really like, wow, this is a big deal. And like, they were just heartbroken. And it's heartbreaking to see something like that just get damaged. And I mean, it was no big accident by any means, but just that little part of it, to see that thing. Whoa. I can't. Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Oh. I think you're muted. Oh no.
How about now?
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
He's back. Good.
We're gonna have another one of those things. We have this little prelude, but we don't have to. Yeah. Anyway, that was weird. No, I said I would be like walking by, you know, and seeing a hole in her and be like, oh my God, how could I? I can't even imagine. I would like die if I saw that. I think because she's just so
and
special. I mean,
and the thing too is that when the boat's in the water, people don't realize how big this thing is. This thing is like an airplane. I mean, when you see it,
it's big.
Tremendous. It's tremendous. Like being in the yard. I mean, even the crew was like, even my captain was like, I drive that thing, you know. But it's really different when the boat's out of the water, because the boat has all this construction underneath that is responsible for the way the boat behaves and moves.
Yeah,
it's really beautiful. So it's really a big deal to have to repair something like that, you know. And we're a Coast Guard certified vessel, so the Coast Guard we're safe for commercial. So that's what's really unique about Vita Mia, is that most boats, pleasure cruises, they can charter 6 people, just, you know, with no sort of oversight or anything like that. But a commercial vessel basically means that the Coast Guard inspects the vessel every year. They deem it safe for approval. There's all kinds of testing that's done. So Vita Mia is literally, for as old as she is one of the safest yachts.
Wow. Yeah. And she's just so, it's just so cool. I don't know, you know, whoever gets to Honolulu, if you're lucky enough to get there, you got to go on this thing. One thing we were remiss about was going for the dinner cruise the night before we were leaving, because we really wanted to go. And we were like, oh, God. But friends of ours were landing, and then we were like, wait a minute, are we meeting them? Like, so we ended up not knowing what was going on, so we couldn't, which was very sad, because I was like, I really want to go back. So,
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, the sunset dinner cruises are really cool, because, like, you know, there's like this old school Waikiki thing, and I love that idea of like a dinner cruise, you know, with like hula or live local entertainment, and just like that is an Aloha Hawaii experience. You know, you're out on this boat and you're just there with like 20 people, and you're eating good food, and you're listening to local music, and it's really intimate, and there's so much fun. So it's, you know, it's a very high-end yacht, but I want people to feel at home when they're there. So just like kick back, enjoy the music, enjoy the views. I love the dinner cruise idea. Like, people really seem to like it. So yeah,
and we will be when we come next time. We are going to be on that. Like, we already had that conversation. So, but because we were bummed, you know, we were like, okay, you know, can we fit this in? And it was like, no, crap. I was trying to figure it out, but she was like, there's logistically. I was like, okay, fine. Next time.
Yeah.
So, okay, someone's crying out there. But, so, and you know, you talk about 61 feet, that's 6 stories. And I don't think people think of that. It's like looking at a 6-story building. That's how freaking long she is.
So big. I know. It's so big.
I mean, it's gigantic. And I remember when we were sitting there eating, it was like, we're looking at one end, and there's the stern, go me. So there's the stern, and we're looking at everything in between. And then, you know, we started walking like to the bow, and when you're walking it, it doesn't feel like you're walking that. It's deceiving.
Yeah.
It's deceiving.
Yeah, these boats were built for, they were built for luxury, and they were built, these commuter yachts. So Vita Mia is a commuter yacht, and she was built in 1929. And these boats were built, so this is like an era, like these boats were built for luxury, and they were built to accommodate rest.
Yeah.
So there's staterooms in there, and there's a kitchen for the crew to cook and serve the family that owns the boat.
Right.
And there's a bell to ring the captain and the crew, and there's all that kind of stuff. And so, these boats were built for relaxation and for pleasure, cruising. That's what they're for. So there's people get on the boat and they don't even realize that there's like all these staterooms underneath and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, it's so cool. So I know I'm getting so off track because I'm so like enamored by it, and I love hearing you talk about her. But so some of the things you're talking about. So seasoned entrepreneurs that are listening to us now, are probably going through some stuff that you've been through. So like, what's a big obstacle that you kind of had to overcome? And we might have touched on it already. So, but
besides the financial stuff, what was my biggest hurdle was really getting a handle on like my ego. I think I was, you get so much attention and there's so much excitement as you're starting a business, and the tendency for me was to be like, I figured this out, and stardom can kill you on a personal level. So I don't know. I feel actually not qualified to give advice to seasoned entrepreneurs. I don't know where I'm at on the scale, but for me, when I really started investing like my time in like prayer and God, that was what really changed things for me, as just how I function during the day, and really just, I really feel like magic things kind of started to happen. I get up really early in the morning, and I just sit and I pray for an hour, and I talk to God, and I just ask him, what am I supposed to do with this thing? God, show me the way. And I developed a real strong connection to that, to God, and that gave me a lot of power. It's not my power, it's that power. So my intuition is stronger, my decision making is better, and it's because I have a source of strength that's not here. Because my brain is, if I stay in my head for too long, I think that I'm responsible for everything that I created, and I'm not. That idea didn't come to me from my head, it came to me from my heart, and that's something that's like way more powerful than what I'm capable of. There's no way that I figured that out myself. So I feel really, it's, whenever I'm really, I don't want to say really stressed, but things are just heavy. Things are really heavy. You can't make your meetings, you're not doing your to-do list, and just people are calling you all day long, and it's just like, everything's a mess. And there's always a place where you can go and just like really find that connection. But I had to get tools. Like I needed to, I don't know, I started like reading the Bible because I heard there were some promises in there. So I started looking into that, like there's some promises. I wanted to find out what these are about. And I started trying to find ways to understand like some of our spiritual teachings and really help change how I behaved, right? Because I felt you take prisoners when you're like in your own head a lot and you're trying to like control things. And when you're a business owner, you have to control things and you have to respond. Like if I have a crew member that doesn't show up or starts doing something, I have to do something about it. I can't just not do something. But if I'm like angry about it and like, kind of all resentful, I'm going to like cause more problems. Right. And so I have to find some way to like step back and get some intuition and some guidance about how to treat the situation so I can make this person better and not cause any more damage than like anyone else is causing. I don't want to cause any more damage than I've already caused in my life. I want to make sure that what I do with my employees and anyone around me is to, be helpful. I want to be helpful.
Cool.
So that was
So do you drive her at all?
No.
Like do you no?
No, but I'm gonna bring my captains. I'm gonna get my license and show you guys.
Yes, I want to next time. You have a year and a half.
Those captains have a lot of leverage over a boat owner, and they know it.
That's right. So in a year and a half, when we're back there, I want to see you steering that ship. I'm gonna be like, all right, we're.
I know. It's really probably the only thing I don't do, but I'm getting a little more into sort of the mechanical stuff this year. Understanding that because it's kind of fun. So, yeah, no, I don't know if I would ever. Like, you can't drive your own boat.
Right.
Your own attorney.
Right.
No, I think that if there's some time that frees up in my life, I'd like to try that out. But I think it will hurt the business a lot if it's just driving.
Because then you're going to be like, wait a minute, you're
No,
steering
really
wrong. You're not. No, you're not doing that. Yeah, I could. Yeah. I used to. So I lived on Long Island for a long time, and I never owned a boat, but my friends owned boats, and they would let me, drive them in the not. Like I've never. Oh, actually, I did pull into the dock once. I pulled into the dock once, and I'll never forget it. Only because my friend was so drunk. I was in my 20s, so 20s or 30s. I don't know, but she was just so drunk that she was just like, "Okay, I can't. Like everything's moving, so I'm gonna, tell you how to do this." And I was like, "Oh my God!" Because if I do this wrong, I'm going to crash into the, whatever, even though there's like rubber bumpers and everything. Right. So, and I don't know how I did it, but I did it. But I love just, feeling, steering and feeling the wind blowing.
Our guest drive, when we're underway, it's just docking and getting in and out of the harbor. That's the part. But we always let them go take a turn at the wheel and steer and teach them how the swells are coming in. And it's great.
It's cool. I mean, it's just, I think it's, there's, yeah. And the day that we went out, the weather was perfect. Like the water was perfect. Everything was it was meant. I really believe it was meant to be.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. For sure.
So, I'm not even going to ask what your differentiator is because we know it's her, and it's her history is so, and I don't want you to give everything away on here because I really want people to go and see it and then hear you. And Brynn and I were talking offline. We talk, and one of the things that we were talking about was, because it's my marketing brain. It's like, what can we do to make it more special? And I really think that, you, and I still say this, you being on the boat should be an experience. It shouldn't be where you're there all the time. It should be like, oh, Brynn's here. This is like, yay, we're going to hear everything. And that's just in my head because I just, the experience of you talking about her on her, you could just see, the passion, it's like oozing from your pores. And I just think that that's, pretty amazing. But I'm not going to tell you how to, run your business. But
no, I actually appreciate that. That's the kind of stuff that entrepreneur that we need as a shift in mindset from someone else. Like, hey, what if you did it this way? I never even considered that. I was just trying to get through the day all the time. But so I started actually trying that out. And so I go and give a little speech, and then the boat goes out, and I step off the boat. And I actually have to do that because I can't keep this boat afloat if I'm underway for 6 hours a day, and I can't answer emails, and I can't develop partnerships, and I can't timesheets in and all that stuff. Like my job as an owner of this boat is to keep it floating. My job is to support 14 people here and to provide opportunities here, and not only to make the guest experience good, but my responsibility is to preserving that boat, and my responsibility is to the people who committed to working for me. So the guests, of course, that's fantastic. That's great, but I can't spend I love meeting the guests. I would do that all day long, but I can't do that. And run and keep it a successful business. So it's that was a hard one.
Yeah.
That was a hard one.
Yeah. But we'll talk. But anyway, so see, we're at an hour already. I told you it goes so fast. Well, you and I could talk for, I think the last time we talked was almost 2 hours. So so the last question that I ask everybody, and I can't believe we're here already, is, what lights your fire? And it could be personal, it could be professional, it could be, whatever.
I think it's clear that it's these boats.
I know. I was going to be like, well, duh, but I always give everybody that, forum. Yeah.
I just have, seeing the way that you and Heather responded, and to hear that made a very special memory for you when you traveled all the way to come here for Hawaii means a lot to me. And that is what lights my fire, is when I see that my idea is giving people some joy. It really is. I'll take it any day of the week. I mean, every time I come back from talking to a guest or meeting the boat, I'm just like high as a kite. I really am. It's like, it's fantastic. So, to see this an idea actually get developed and now doing this, because remember, I haven't even been on a boat it's just started 2 years ago, and I started in the yard 8 years ago, and like now it's like so rewarding to be able to connect to people. I just love it. I love it, and I love that it's inspiring. I just love that it's keeping the boat. Like we figured out a way to keep this thing floating.
Yeah,
and it's working. Like,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I mean,
it's tremendous. It's tremendous.
It is tremendous. It is. And for all of you who want, to learn about her, go to thevitamia.com and read about her history and all of that, because it's just, you're not going to be as spoiled as me and get to hear Brynn, talk about it. But it's just, her history is so rich. And I remember, you talk about creating a memory, and I think that's really what it does is, we have, one of those digital frames. And so it's always going back. So I will tell you, this is like hilarious. So we buy this frame because I took 1,500 pictures because I'm insane. But I'm like, probably 200 were on the Vita Mia easily. Aww. I think I put like 8 up on Google. And it was funny because I put one of the interior that you showed me with the porthole, and I had another one up, but I was like, I didn't want people to freak out and think that there was a hole in the boat or something. So I was like, oh my God. So I just put that up. So hopefully they know that. But the funniest thing was, so we buy this frame and the pictures are rotating, and all of a sudden we hear, and I'm like, what in the hell are they barking at? And they're barking at the frame, because it's like this new thing, on top of my piano that, this thing is moving. And it was,
that's so funny.
It was like hilarious. But one thing I do want to talk about is your first mate, which is Luna. She's like this little, little Shih Tzu. Where is she? She is like the cutest.
Thank you.
She's like the cutest. I mean, look at that. She's like, and she looks like Chewbacca, right? She's like so freaking cute. And she looks bigger on the screen than she is. She's probably like what? 8 how long is she?
Oh, she's about this.
Yeah, she's like 5 feet. She's ridiculous. But she's so cute. And we're sitting at the seats, at the bow, and we turn around and there's this little face, and we're like, oh my God. So, and we have those pictures of me leaning on her, but she's the first mate. If you ever go on there, she's amazing. She can't tell you about the boat. Well, maybe she can if you can talk animal.
Actually, my team calls her the CFO. She is they don't trust me to run the business. They're like, Luna makes better decisions than me. So they call her the CFO, the chief furry officer, I think.
Oh my God. Okay. Is that on the website? Because that needs to be on the website. Her picture with Chief Furry Officer. All you CFOs out there,
I know. My friend and consultant, Summit and Rachel, they came up with that. But yeah, she's, it was really cool because Luna, people come. I started being like one of those people that I was using Luna. I was exploiting her in my marketing, because dogs on boats are like a thing, Yeah. And so I'm just exploiting her, and she's got a life vest and all that stuff. And then people started to expect Luna on the boat all the time. So I literally had to drop Luna off for a graduation party. They had a private charter, and the charter notes specifically requested Luna for the event. So I had to, and I can't say no. I had to bring her to the boat and get her to
it's
just ridiculous. Yeah, but then kids are disappointed if she's not there on the coffee cruise. So
because she's Luna. So
Luna.
My goodness. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy. I know it's also noon there. I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
Do I want to ask how warm it is? Am I going to cry?
I think it's a good high 70s and. nice conditions.
And 70s there feels so different than 70s here. Because I remember, we woke up in the morning and it was 74 degrees and it felt like it was 80 something, that like it would here. But then at night, if it was 70, I'd be cold. Like, Heather would walk around in shorts and a jacket, and I'd be in like my jeans, and I went to Olukai and I bought like a long sleeve t-shirt and, I was, I don't like the cold.
I know we're used to that. Like here, we have trade winds, so it keeps everything like really comfortable. And it's funny because it's like 5 days a year where we don't have trade winds, and everyone that lives here is like, "What? Like it's so hot." I'm not used to not.
We're all dying for that heat, right? We're like, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah.
So, all right. So, thank you so much for taking the time. Hang on, I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody, and really appreciate you. Telling your story, and you all out there. Thank you so much for, again, hanging out. This is an hour and 10 minutes for my friends working out. I hope you're not like really exhausted, because I would be like dying by now. But as always, thank you for listening. Don't forget to, if there was some information here that, you liked and thought somebody would like, share, subscribe, because when you subscribe, you'll get notification that a new episode is out. Like our page, it's the Cookbook on YouTube, Cookbook on Vimeo. Really appreciate all of you. Love the fact that, you guys are getting such joy out of this, because this is really my passion project. This is bringing me so much joy too. So I'm going to sign off for now. Iris Goldfeder, the Cookbook. Thanks again for watching and listening. And remember, go out and find what lights your fire. Bye, everyone.